this is what happens when you buy a car with no keys. You have to slide it off. It's all-wheel drive, so we got to keep rocking it back and forth until it actually comes out. So you can see the WD-40 can. You spray it underneath the tires and it'll slide off the flatbed. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and this is the cheapest Range Rover in the United States. I picked this thing up at the auction for $700. Now, I'm gonna go into all the pros and cons here a little bit later, but I just wanted to do more videos like this because I keep getting a lot of people saying, well, how do you buy the cars? How do you come up with the math to figure out to fix them and sell them? So I figured this one would be a good one. So I got about 8 videos just like this that we're making right now as we speak. So if you can, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell. We're going to be posting great content like this every single week. And if you could please smash the like button if you thought this was entertaining, fun, or at least killed 5 minutes of your time, I would truly appreciate it. And without any more shameless plugging, let's get into the video. This is a 2003 Range Rover. This is a total baller on a budget vehicle. Now, we got this one for a really screaming deal because I went to the auction and they were bidding this thing up, but nobody was meeting the reserve. They had a reserve for like $2,200, but the problem was they had no keys for the vehicle. So it was as is, where is, how is. So I kept visiting the auction and I kept seeing this car running and nobody bid on it. So I finally went up to the bank and I'm friends with one of the reps there and I was like, what's up with this Range Rover? I keep seeing it run. You know, you guys are not doing anything with it. It's been there for like 6 months. You know, everything is slowing down. And they're like, well, we're gonna wait a little bit before we sell it. Well, at the end of the year, they said, you know what, we're gonna sell it. If you give us $1,000, you could take it as is, whatever. I thought about it and I was gonna give them a call, but I wound up getting busy with traveling to Florida, setting up the other dealerships, doing some videos for this channel. Well, they called me last week and said, you know what, Lucky, if you want it, you could have it for $700. So I went down there, picked it up from the auction. I have no keys for this thing. I don't know what the miles are. I ran the Carfax, last reported miles were 120,000 miles. It does have a clean title. It's been spent most of its life here in Las Vegas. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of walk through the vehicle and see what we're working with. Okay guys, we're gonna do a little bit of a walk around so I can kind of tell you guys a little bit about the vehicle. So if we look, it looks in pretty decent shape. Tires, this one's not too bad, but this one in the back is awful. I'll try to get out of the way so my shadow doesn't hide it. But you can see pretty much the tread is exploded out of this. Thing's been sitting here for months. We got an awesome taillight. Ooh, look, it's custom, pops out. All right, what else do we got? We got no dents, nothing else on this side. Let's go ahead and keep looking on the other side. Looks like a pretty decent car so far. All right, one of the things I always do, which I'm gonna teach you guys, is always put on the vehicle when you first get started, what you're into the vehicle. So, right here, I'm gonna write, we're into the car for $700. This is what we purchased it for. So that's where we're into it. Now, so far, I had to tow this thing back, which you've seen in the video. That costed me $50. So as we go on, we're gonna have a tally of what we're actually gonna get. Usually down here, I'll put miles, but we don't know what the miles are yet. Another thing we're gonna talk about is what the value is. So I looked online, these things are kind of all over the place. I've seen these as cheap as $5,000 and as expensive as $7,000. So we're just gonna put $5,000 to $7,000. You always wanna work yourself backwards from what you can actually sell it for. Because if the gap is not big enough for your profit, you don't even wanna mess with it. So we're just gonna put that on the windshield as we start walking around and doing stuff. We're gonna do so. This side looks pretty good. So we were able to pop the locks off camera. So I got inside the door here. We're just waiting for the locksmith to actually show up. So let's go ahead and take a peek inside and see what we're working with. Wow, look at that. This is the problem with most of the vehicles here in Vegas, man. These tweakers and stuff, they wind up living in these cars. So when we rolled it around, we actually had to break, sorry about the shade going in and out, we actually had to break the shifter piece to pop it off to put it in neutral. So all this will go back together, it's no big deal, but we actually had to do that. I can see we have the battery right there. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what else we're working with. Seats are not too bad, but if you can see, this is kind of broken and ugly. Unfortunately, no lights, nothing on the dash. And then if you look back here, you can kind of see that there's pretty much some extra junk and some other stuff in there. All right, let's pop the hood, see what we're working with. All right. All right, so good news. Usually when I see these things at the auction, they always pull the heads off because they always have head gasket problems. But this one, I do not see any of that. I see the typical rags. Looks like they've been working on some stuff with coolant. So let's go ahead and let's check the dipstick and see. I'm gonna try to see how I can do this without smashing my head on the thing. So let me grab a stick or something so I can do this. Okay, before I check the oil, I wanted to make sure I couldn't find my hood prop, so I just found a piece of wood, put it on there. So we're gonna go ahead and check the oil and see what it looks like here. Hopefully it's not too bad. Let's go ahead and take a peek. All right, so good news is it's doesn't look like a milkshake, so that means there's no blown head gasket. It looks like a typical Range Rover owned by somebody in Vegas, because if we look at the oil, you can kind of see there is, well, actually they've never changed it, so they just pretty much drove the hell out of it without even servicing it, which is typical. Now, when I always check my oil, I always put my hands in the sun, and the reason why is I want to see if there's anything metallic in there. So if we can see if there's any bearings, any parts of rings, anything like that. But looking at this right now, I don't see any of that, so that's good news. So let's go ahead and keep taking a peek and see what we see. All right. Okay, doesn't look that bad. Okay, so we got about 20 minutes before the locksmith gets here. So once we get the locksmith here, we're gonna get the key and then we're gonna see if this thing fires up. All right, guys, the locksmith just left, so we're setting it up right now. There is no battery. The battery is actually sitting in the passenger seat. So we got our jumper box here, and we're gonna go ahead and start it. Always recommend definitely get a DSR jumper box. If you're watching this right now, definitely sponsor me. I love your guys' products. This one's about $400, but it can jump start pretty much anything. It's got a 12 volt and 24 volt. We always recommend having an actual good jump box, especially for cars like this, because if you don't have the right voltage, nothing will work. So we're gonna go ahead and fire it up and we'll see. One thing I always tell people too, when you have the locksmith here, you always wanna make sure that you test the key, not only in the ignition, but also in your door locks, because I can't tell you how many times the locksmiths came and they actually didn't test it in the doors, and the door was a different key. So we locked the car after we started it up and nothing would work. So we're gonna go ahead and hop in and see what we're working with. All right, so, well, no lights on the dash just yet. Let's see. Let's put the key in. And put the shifter here. We'll fix that later. Pull the e-brake off. All right. Turn the key. All right, we have power. So let's see what we got here. Fasten seatbelts. Oops. Turn down the radio. We have 167,000 miles. So we need to write that on the windshield, so this way we can keep track, so we know what we're working with, because this is what we're going to compare the other cars to. So, all right, we checked the oil, we checked the coolant, we made sure everything was good to go. So let's go ahead and give it a crank. Oh, crap. All right. Now you can hear it kind of rattling. That's probably the timing chain. It hasn't ran with oil in a long time, so it's going to be making quite a bit of noise for a little while till it builds up oil pressure. But we know the radio works, it fires up. Let's take a peek here. Okay, now here's another tip. If the car has been sitting for a long time, do not rev the engine until it idles for about 20-30 minutes. You got to let that oil pressure build, and the oil that we saw in here was pretty nasty. So we just want to do a warm startup. We're going to check all the fluids, check the temperature, see where it's leaking, and then we're going to go ahead and do the oil change. The reason why we don't do the oil change right away is there's no point in us changing the oil, getting everything set up, and then once we fire it up, the thing starts leaking like a sieve. So we want to make sure that as it's running, we can go ahead and find out and see exactly what's wrong with the car. Now, you can hear a little bit of it. Most of that noise is actually coming from the fan. It just sounds really loud, but the motor has a small tick, but nothing really significant. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna let this warm up and idle for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna go ahead and start checking it with the scanner to see what we're reading. But in the meantime, now that it's been running for a few seconds, just for fun, we're gonna test to see if it actually goes into gear. So let's go ahead and pull it. Let's go reverse. Let's see if we can back up. All right, it's rolling backwards, cool. Let's go ahead and put it in drive. Show you guys how we're rolling forward. All right, we're rolling forward. Let's go ahead and put it in reverse again. Back up to where we're at, so we're out of the way. All right, go ahead and put it in park. Make sure it's there. All right. So good news is it seems to be running okay. Things are working. Like I said, the radio does work. Now, once we actually get inside, we're going to test the windows, we're going to test the AC, everything else like that, but I don't want to mess with that just yet because there's nothing worse than rolling down the windows and then all of a sudden we can't start the car again and it's outside and all the elements can get inside. So once we actually get it inside the shop, we're going to go ahead and test all the windows and everything else. Okay guys, so we pulled it in the shop, we let it run for a while, and we noticed that the reservoir is leaking water. So we just picked up a new one for like 70 bucks. And all the rattling I was telling you guys about, I don't know if you can see me, that's actually that pulley right there is the water pump, and this is the fan clutch and the fan that's attached to it. And if you could see, I'm literally grabbing it and moving it around. That's how loose it was. It's insane. So we want to go ahead and fix this. So the water pump, I think, was another like $65. So we're going to do these two items first just to make sure the car runs good, doesn't overheat, anything else, and we'll see how it goes. But like I said, this is our $700 Land Rover build. I'm going to go ahead and start it real quick, and then I'm going to do a video of it actually running. So this way maybe you guys can see. Can you turn on your light? I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that thing is rattling. That's awesome. So, I mean, this is what it is. So on the outside, people are like, oh my God, it's a timing chain, or the timing belt or chain. But all in reality, it's just a bad water pump. Okay, we just picked up the parts from O'Reilly's. So here's the water pump. Pretty elaborate piece. Comes with an outlet and everything else. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on the model. And here is our reservoir. So reservoir wasn't that bad. I think it was like 60 bucks or something. So you can see it. Wasn't that expensive. Now if we go over here to the old one, let me see if I could show you, like right here. This is fiberglass and duct tape, what they put on here, just trying to patch it. So it ended up blowing up water. So they probably spent $20 trying to patch it when just a few dollars more, they could have just bought one brand new with no problems with the sensor actually inside it and everything. So we'll put these in the morning and we'll go from there.